Well, after The Fellowship of the Ring and The Two Towers, Peter Jackson's adaptation of J.R.R. Tolkien's epic trilogy comes to a close with this third and final installment. Hello to everyone watching and welcome back to Real Screen Reviews and We Live Film. I am movie critic Nick Iacobucci, and our next movie review is The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. This grand conclusion opened in wide release on December 17, 2003, and it once again stars Elijah Wood, Sean Astin, Sir Ian McKellen, Orlando Bloom, Viggo Mortensen, and many others. The Return of the King is once again brought to us from Academy Award-winning filmmaker Peter Jackson, and as I've said before, he will once again revisit Middle-earth this December when The Hobbit debuts near Christmas. This time around, we see Frodo and Sam and Gollum dealing with the ring, Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas defending the masses, and the battle for Middle-earth all coming to a boil hotter than the fires of Mount Doom. Well, people, this tale once again picks up right where the last chapter has left off, and we again see the growth and maturity of these characters. This trilogy sees many arcs of many stories that come full circle, and the most evident of these stories is the brotherly relationship between Frodo Baggins and Samwise Gamgee. This friendship between these two couldn't be more put to the test, and the loyalty that they have for one another will be stretched to the brink. The toll of bearing the ring begins to grow further burdensome and even more difficult with each step toward Mount Doom, and the addition of Gollum and his antics only increased that burden. We started to get glimpses of darkness in Frodo's personality in The Two Towers, and here he finds himself fending off even more temptation. The constant struggle of the ring's evil power slowly chips away at the soul of the trilogy's main protagonist, and that is until it unfortunately begins to consume him. I have always thought that one of the boldest moments of this film, or of any of the three films for that matter, is when Frodo caves to the ring at the top of Mount Doom. This year-long struggle has brought him to this point, and when it comes time to destroy it, well, as much as it pains me to say it, Frodo succumbs to the Ring of Power. Most people seem to either ignore this point, or maybe they just choose to forget that when Frodo is about to throw the ring into the fire, he instead turns and says something like, "No, the ring is mine." This is nothing short of a shocking revelation to those not familiar with the story, but he is only so strong, and the struggle finally overtakes him in a moment of weakness. Then you have what started out as a sidekick or comic relief, but then is magically transformed into one of the biggest little heroes ever to grace the silver screen. I am talking, of course, about Sam Gamgee, the small gardener that becomes a symbol of strength or shining example for all that which is righteous, good, and worth fighting for. Sam is a depiction of purity, and not only bears the ring himself, he also carries the ring bearer in one of the best and most heartfelt moments of the entire trilogy. I challenge anyone not to get a lump in your throat when he says to Frodo, "I might not be able to carry the ring, but I can surely carry you." And then he follows this up by continuing to put Frodo on his back and carrying his friend up the mountain of doom. As I said, this is one of the trilogy's finest moments, and throughout the three pictures, Sam remains not only true and stout of heart, but he could also be considered the moral compass that all can follow. Then Andy Circus once again proves to be so remarkable in his depiction of the character of Gollum that you truly and honestly forget that you're even watching a computer-generated image. His split personality is mostly driven by deceit and evil, and is as memorable of a villain as Tony Perkins' Norman Bates or Anthony Hopkins' Hannibal Lecter. Also, this depiction of Gollum that is brought to life by Mr. Circus is not only a compliment to him, but also a compliment to the special effects team at Weta, to the director, Mr. Jackson, and finally can be summed up as nothing short of astounding. Another standout in the form of special effects is that of Shelob, or the giant spider. There are so many times that a giant spider is incorporated into a film to disastrous effect, but not in The Return of the King. Jackson was very smart to take this out of The Two Towers where it was written, and then placed it in the third story. He also did this with the introduction or backstory of Smeagol that was also to appear in The Two Towers, but was eventually held to the third film so that people knew of him before they found out his origin. Even though The Return of the King encompasses some of the best battle sequences ever created on film, it also works as a tale of inspiration on many levels. Peter Jackson never loses the focus of good versus evil in any of the fighting segments, and holds this tale solidly in the foundation of humanity. Many parts of this story put our heroes in overwhelming displays of anguish and despair, and many individuals die along the way as well. This is a real story with real emotions that connect the audience with not only the film's main players, but what they stand for as well. On top of all this, there are many one-liners of humor spread all throughout this chapter, and those always seem to come specifically when needed. Then what also began in the previous stories and much more solidifies in this tale is the sense of unity among the races standing together. Just like the allies of World War II, these individuals must set aside their differences and work together if they are ever to survive this ordeal. The one that stands out more than others is that of the dwarves and of the elves. Legolas and Gimli are none too fond of each other when this begins, but as the tale progresses they become fast friends and form a lasting bond of respect and admiration that is more than felt by all that watch this tale. Their contest of killing the enemy is as cool as it is comical, and their banter is just as enjoyable. Now, even though I truly like Gimli, there is no other word to describe Legolas than to say awesome with a capital A. Whether he is sliding down steps or sliding up giant creatures, or whether he's performing acrobatic action at close range or shooting arrows at what appears to be a mile away, Orlando Bloom's Legolas is one of cinema's greatest heroes. Speaking of cinema's greatest heroes, this takes me to the king of The Return of the King. Viggo Mortensen perfectly blended action and leadership, honor and good looks, and all-around charisma to bring to life the one man everyone wanted to stand behind. He is the linchpin in what has to be one of the finest and greatest Part 3s ever put together. Even weighing this against The Dark Knight Rises, I would say that The Return of the King is just a little bit better. From the time that this trilogy has been released, it has been compared to both George Lucas's Star Wars and Coppola's Godfather, and righteously so. This film radiates emotion and is driven by suspense, solid drama, and works only because of the rich and vibrant characters that we care so much about. At 3 hours and 20 minutes, Peter Jackson definitely saved the best for last with the epic conclusion of the Lord of the Rings trilogy with The Return of the King. This will rank as one of the all-time grandest and boldest adventures ever to grace the silver screen. Jackson has crafted some of the most impressively stunning action sequences, but in all of that mind-blowing adventure, he never loses sight of the heartfelt emotion of the element of humanity. Or would that be hobbity, elfity, or dwarfity? I don't know. Pick. This film is nothing short of a masterpiece and could easily be described as magnificent, brilliant, or just plain spectacular. I personally cannot think of another movie whose finale takes up over an hour of screen time, and with hundreds of thousands of CGI characters brought to life, it isn't even boring for 1 second. With flying dragons, giant trolls, olifants, and the amazing detail that displays Minas Tirith, this feature sets itself apart from just about every other movie of that year. I guess that is no wonder why the Academy chose to shower this final installment with many trophies, including Best Picture. You could easily draw on the conclusion that all of the Academy Gold was rewarded for the entire trilogy and not just for this one part of cinematic greatness. Nick's Real Screen Review is once again a perfect 4 stars out of 4, and that's for the grand finale of Peter Jackson's amazing adaptation of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. Well, that not only concludes our reviews for The Lord of the Rings, but that is also all the time that I have for today. If you have enjoyed this review, please click like below and give us a thumbs up, or subscribe to We Live Film or Real Screen Reviews if you haven't yet already. Once again, I'm very happy to be the newest member of the We Live Film family, and please check out all of the talent on this remarkably diverse channel. I'm sure that I will be returning soon enough with more reviews of both trailers and feature films, and until then, remember people, I'm not always right, but only when it comes to the movies. And thank you very much for your attention.